All right, this is day 1 of 6.4. We will do day 2 of 6.4 tomorrow. So we're just going to do half of it today. Our first word, this lesson has a lot of vocabulary in it. So you're going to be writing a lot, but you do need to write down this vocabulary because it's going to ask you what's the outcome, what is an event, what is a possible, what is impossible, what's a complement. So you do need to make sure you write down all of our definitions. Okay, so the first definition we're going to talk about is outcome. Outcome is the possible result of your action. So for an example, if you roll a 6-sided die or a dice, an outcome might be rolling a 4. Then you try rolling it again. Your next outcome was maybe rolling a 6. Okay, so outcome is just what happened. What was the result of you doing an action? So now let's say, well, we have the word event. An event is an outcome or group of outcomes. Okay, so in our event here, I used 2 dice. I rolled a sum of 6. Let's say I rolled a 2 and a 3. That is an event, but it has multiple outcomes because I rolled a 2 and I rolled a 3. I didn't just roll a 6 with 1 die. Okay, so again, it could have multiple outcomes. Random. Here's our new vocabulary word. Random is when all outcomes are equally likely. Okay, let's say I have a coin. I have the same chances of flipping a heads as I do a tails. They are random. It's a random thing. That's why we like to do coin flipping to see who will win. The first example I have is rolling a dice. All 1 through 6 are equally likely. Okay, I don't have a better chance of rolling a 6 or a 1 because there's only one of each of those numbers. Another example is, what if I had a spinner? And on this spinner it was cut in half and cut in half again. Here's my spinner right here. I have 1, 2, and 3. Let's add in that this is random. Okay, so would it be random, these 1, 2, and 3s? No, because I would have a better chance at getting this 3 than I would at getting a 1 or a 2. 1 and 2 are smaller boxes, 3 is a bigger box. So that would not be an example of random. But a dice would be because I have equally the same chances of getting every number. All right, so how would we find the probability of an event? This is our little formula we're going to use right here. Okay, so if you want to find the probability of the event, on the top, you have to put the number of favorable outcomes. We'll talk about what that means. And then on the bottom of your fraction or your ratio, you have to put the number of possible outcomes. Okay, key word here is possible. So let's do a couple examples of that. The capital P means probability of using a single dice, a die or dice, that you will get an odd number. Okay, so I know if I have a dice, I could either roll 1, 3, or 5. Those are the only odd numbers that I could roll on a dice. How many options do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So how I would write this, the probability, I would say P, odd number, equals, so I have a chance of getting 1, 2, 3 would go on my top, and 6 would go on my bottom. Now, I always need to make sure I'm writing my answer in simplest forms. So again, I would write probability of odd number. And fine, if you want to abbreviate with a hashtag, would be equals 1/2. Okay, so that would be my answer right there. 1 out of 2 that I would get an odd number. I have half, 1 out of 2 probability of getting an odd number. So now for number 2, it's saying, what's the probability of getting a 2? Well, I got 1. I want to get the number 2. And I have my possible outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the probability of getting a 2 I have 1 chance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 possible outcomes. So the probability of getting a 2 is 1 in 6. And that's already simplified, so I don't have to simplify farther. For number 3, they say, what's the probability of getting a 5 or a 6? Well, I could get a 5, or I could get a 6. Those are my favorable outcomes. And then I have to ask myself, what is the number of possible outcomes? Again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I have 6 possible outcomes. I have probability of 5 or 6. I have 2 favorable outcomes over 6 possible outcomes. Now I need to reduce. So the probability of 5 or 6 would be, if I divided by 2, be 1/3. So I have a 1 in 3 chance. That's how we say probabilities. 1 in 3 chance, 1 in 2 chance, 1 in 6 chance of getting, 1 in 3 chance of getting a 5 or a 6 for this event. Okay? All right, and this is our last slide already. Can't believe it. So then there's going to be things that are called impossible events. Okay, so what an impossible event is one that cannot happen and whose probability is 0. So let's say, what's the probability of rolling a die and you get a number 7? 1 die and you get number 7. What's the possibility? That would be a 0 possibility, because you can't roll 1 die and get a 7. It only goes 1 through 6. Okay, and whenever they say die, they don't mean those special die that have 12 sides and are used for other things in math. They mean a regular die with 6 sides. Okay, so we have impossible events where the probability is 0. And we have a certain event where it is one that will always happen and whose probability is 1. So let's say I have a double-sided coin, or double-headed coin, so heads on both sides. And I say, what is the probability I'll get a heads? Well, every single time I'm going to get a heads. Or let's say I have a cup with red beads in it. And I ask, what's the probability that I'm going to pull out a red bead? Well, it's 100% because that's all that's in the cup. Okay, so we kind of have this continuum here. We have 0, which is an impossible event. And then we have a 1. Oops, I better put that on the bottom. Then I have a 1, which is certain. A certain event. It's always going to happen. And never going to happen is impossible. And then I have, in the middle, a 0.5 or a 50% chance. So that would be like flipping a coin. I have a 1 in 2 chance of getting a heads. A 1 in 2 chance of getting a tails. I have 50% chance at knowing what I'm going to roll. Okay, so we kind of have this continuum. We're asking where on this continuum is our probability going to lie. All right, and then the last thing we're going to talk about is the complement of an event. So the complement of an event is, our clue word is opposite. For example, let's say I asked you to find the probability that it's going to rain today. And it says find the complement of that. Then you would find the probability that it's not going to rain. Let's do a few examples here. So the probability of a single die, okay, 6 sides. What is the complement of the probability of 2? Okay, so that means what's the odds that I'm not going to roll a 2? So again, it would be 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. How many numbers do I have on the top? I have 5 numbers on the top. How many numbers do I have on the bottom? I have 6. Okay, so the complement, how we're going to write this is we're going to write complement, capital P2 equals 5 over 6. Okay, so the complement means what if I don't roll a 2? What's the odds of me not rolling a 2? So complement, let's do number 2 here. Complement of the probability of rolling a 3 or a 4. Well, I could roll a 1, a 2, not a 3 or 4, but I could roll a 5 or a 6. Out of how many possible choices do I have? I have a chance of rolling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so on the top I have 4 chances out of 6 chances. Let's reduce. I would have a 2/3 chance. So again, I'm going to write it complement. Capital P of 3 or 4 equals 2/3. So I have a 2 out of 3 chance of rolling a complement of 3 or 4. Okay, that's all that I have for you today. So, and then tomorrow we'll do some more probability stuff, which this is good. We didn't talk about this last year. So it's good to kind of start getting into ratios, rates, probabilities, and that sort of thing. What this is useful for is, let's say I'm playing a game with somebody and I need to know what's the probability that I'm going to win. It's kind of a way that we could cheat something. So if I go to Las Vegas and I'm playing cards or whatever, and I can count the cards. Okay, well I know we already used an ace. So the ace is out of the deck. There's only 3 aces left. So I can only get 3 aces, but there's 51 cards left. So I have a 3 out of 51 chance of getting that ace. Not looking so good, I better fold. Okay, so it's just kind of a way of testing your odds. What are your chances of winning in a card game or a gambling game, let's say, which none of you should know about that, but that's kind of what probability is fun for. So you kind of get to predict, what are my odds? How can I increase my odds of winning? All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching.